63 movies, 39 awards.
29 or 39?
I read an article that said criticism still hurts.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Of course.
Has there ever been a moment where you thought maybe life would have been easier if I'm not a Bachchan? And in the pursuit of balance, what is next? My name is Shayamal and welcome to In Pursuit of Balance. 1 year ago, I think I got fired from my own company, so I had a lot of time to think about what to do next. And here I am. This is my first talk show. But today, my guest needs no introduction. He's done 63 movies. He's won 39 awards. He's an award-winning actor. He's a host, a philanthropist. Okay? He's a sports lover and a sports team owner. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and welcome my first guest on In Pursuit of Balance, Mr. Abhishek Bachchan. Abhishek, thank you so much for doing this. We've worked together, we've trained together, I've treated you, I've watched your movies, and I'm hoping that today we get to see probably a different side of Abhishek.
I'm a bit nervous. I don't know how prudent it is to say in today's day and age, but I'm your first.
Yes.
Wow.
I was just going to say that, don't take it the wrong way, but I've been thinking about you a lot in the last 2 weeks.
In today's day and age, well, it's legal now, so it's fine.
Correct.
It's okay. No, but thank you for having me. I'm very happy you're doing this.
Thank you so much. I was doing a bit of research. 63 movies, 39 awards.
29 or 39?
39.
Is my manager hearing that? I'm increasing my price tomorrow. I didn't know that.
In your family, you've done 354 movies and 334 awards. So when you win something, do you go home and show it to everyone, or you just go and put it on the shelf?
Well, you've been to the office and you've seen, there are a fair amount. When you're the child of the two actors who I have at home, who are my parents, you kind of pale in comparison in no matter what you do. And then I had to go and marry who I did, so... So yeah, there's a tall enough ladder to climb. But the wonderful thing is that it is welcomed and celebrated at home. So you come home and I think the parents are parents about it, and they get very excited. And they keep it on the mantelpiece for the night. And then my mother is very particular about how she keeps her house. So the next day the girls send it off to the office where...
It's all stored.
It's first, since my father I think was a librarian in his past life, it's catalogued.
Oh yes, I do know that.
And then it is put up, yeah. So yes.
Everything is stored there, which is quite remarkable.
I think it's very important to have that as a reminder. But I actually had a wonderful experience, Shayamal. I'd love to share it with you all. With regards to this, one of the sports team I have is a kabaddi team, and they're currently, they were training. The pre-season was going on in a university called Satyabama University, just outside Chennai. And it was founded by Colonel Jepiar, who is a medical doctor, but also a big philanthropist and runs this huge university. And they were working in there. And he has this room, and he sadly passed away 3 years ago. And his last official guest was me. And I remember when I went there last, when he was alive, and he was sitting on this one chair. And he has a completely empty room. There was a desk, his sofa seat, and 2 chairs in front of him, and that was his office. And his office was probably the size of this room. And he had the ground was just filled wall to wall with all these recognitions and awards that he had. And I said, Mr. Jepiar, this is really wonderful, but why have you kept all your awards on the ground? He said, because you should never let them sit on your head.
That's amazing.
I tried that in my office, and I had to sleep in the living room for 2 nights after that. My wife wasn't too happy about that. But I thought it was just a nice way to look at life.
You've come back now after a while. After taking 2 years off, what is the most exciting thing you've done?
For me, the last 2 years, I took a sabbatical from making films because I wasn't happy with the way I was working. I wasn't happy with... I just felt I wasn't motivated enough. I was being very complacent in whatever I was doing. I wasn't doing my work the way I should be doing it. And I felt before this becomes a problem, and it was going to become a problem very soon. At that point in time, everything was very rosy. So I took 2 years off. I stopped signing films. I dedicated those 2 years to introspecting and just figuring out what I needed to do, but more importantly, how I needed to do it. And my friend Karan Johri used to tell me, the minute you turn 40, you just wait and see. Suddenly, everything is going to get aligned. And, I was like, Karan, please. Yeah. But he's actually right. I saw a lot more clarity in what I wanted to do, how I wanted to do it.
Talking about sport, I came to India in 2012. And when I first came to India, I was quite amazed at how actors were giving advice to athletes. So I was going through the archives and I tweeted something. An actor giving advice because he likes to play sport is like me giving an advice to an actor because I watch movies.
Firstly, let me tell you, your tweet is absolutely wrong. An actor giving advice is perfectly fine because actors get advice from people who have no idea what acting is.
But like I said, a lot has changed. You've won 3 championships. So you're actually now in a position to give advice.
No. I'm very clear. I think after our first ever Shayamal and I started this beautiful journey of Kabaddi together. And he was, I said, okay, this is the guy who's going to change Kabaddi for us. And I was just telling him backstage that I tell this famous story that on the second day of our pre-season camp, they threw the nutritionist out. And when I say they threw the nutritionist out, I literally mean they picked up the nutritionist and threw him out. And the person who had the pride of placement of being the nutritionist was... It's because suddenly Shayamal shows up in the camp and you have all these burly Kabaddi players who've all come from Haryana and Maharashtra and the interiors and all that. And he said, he called me and said, listen, they're drinking a liter of milk a day. So I said, yeah, they're Kabaddi players. But they want ghee and aloo paratha. What is this aloo paratha? How can they be? And Shayamal had a meltdown almost because he couldn't believe that these guys wanted lassi and aloo paratha before and after training. And he stopped all of that and said, no, they have to eat boiled food and this. And they really hated him. I remember season 3 or season 4, we were going through a really bad rut and Shayamal said, I think I need to go spend time with the boys. So I said, sure. He's like, I'm just going to go talk to them. So I'm like, Shayamal, first of all, your Hindi is atrocious. That's true. And they barely speak Hindi. If they do with a heavily accented Punjabi or Haryanvi or Rajasthani or Marathi accent, this is not going to happen. Just forget it. He's like, no, just let me go. And I get a daily report and my team manager used to send me the most random messages of, this practice happened, this happened, then Navneet and Shayamal went for a walk. So I said, Navneet was our captain. I said, went for a walk to do what? And they chatted and then they sat in the grass and then he made them meditate. And these are Kabaddi players, okay? These guys dislocate their jaw and stuff like that and they tie a sock around their face and they get back onto the mat. And he's meditating with them, saying Om together and he's making them monks. I'm like, no, they have to be warriors, Shayamal. And I had this big problem that Shayamal was doing, getting their chi right and let's get them all zen and all that. I said, no, I need them angry. They have to be pissed off. And they went on a winning streak and they reached the finals after that. So I had to keep quiet. But, I just didn't understand how that would work.
But you've taken sport to a whole different level. You don't just own teams now, you also create impact through it. What's the reason why you pick sport?
I have vivid memories of the odd day off if my father was at home. Yeah. And I think it was in the mid-80s, my father joined politics, we had moved to New Delhi. So obviously Parliament used to get over at like 3 o'clock or 2 o'clock. I mean, they used to not adjourn as much as they do nowadays. And he used to come back and and I just remember coming back from school and seeing him sitting on this one cane chair in front of the television watching Test cricket. It was on Doordarshan, that's all that used to come. And he used to just sit there for like hours. And he used to love it. And his den, which was my playground almost, was filled with these VHS tapes, because that's what they used to have in those days. And he used to have all these VHS recordings of football matches, and he was a huge boxing fan because he used to box in school. So he was a huge Ali fan. So all of Muhammad Ali's matches he used to have recordings of, and then Mike Tyson came in, so he used to like that, and Pele, and the wonderful Brazilian national team of the 70s, which is where he introduced me to football, with Socrates and Junior and Zico and Pele. And he used to, show me these matches again and again and talk me through it and say, oh, look at this. And that's where this...
love for sport.
Exactly. And then I went to school. I used to play sports in school. And then I was sent to boarding school when I was 9. And that's where it took a more serious turn, because I was sent to an international boarding school in Switzerland. And there they took sports a lot more seriously. So I started playing basketball and skiing and athletics very seriously over there.
Now that you're in sport, and you're investing it, and you have your own sports teams. Let me ask you, one of the biggest challenges I have when I'm working with professional athletes is actually picking them out from a bad loss or bad media or whatever it is, when they're down in that rut, getting them out of that space is probably one of the toughest challenges for a mental coach or a sports scientist. What do you do?
It's immensely difficult. Because the biggest problem I have faced, and I'm very involved with my teams. I'm not somebody who can just go and wave in the stadium and cheer them on. I get down to what are they going to eat, what time do they go to training. My kabaddi team should have just reached Sonipat in Haryana, where their match is tomorrow. CFC, the international duty boys, should have come back, had their first training. I really get it. That's what excites me about it. I enjoy doing that. It's not. I probably don't know another way of doing it. But what I've realized is we tend to generalize in an audience. Everybody's an individual. Everybody reacts differently to challenges. Everybody needs to be pulled up in a different way and at a different time. So the biggest challenge for me, Shayamal, I never get that. I never used to spend that one-on-one time. It's okay. We've lost our last match. Let's get up. Let's get going. Now. Somebody might respond to being challenged. Somebody might not. What I noticed initially in the first couple of years, in football, for example, is I felt the Indian lads needed a lot more mollycoddling because they're still very subservient. Right. The international boys were up for it. The Indian boys are more simple, so you need a lot more hand-holding over there. Naturally. Yeah. And you have to do a one-on-one session with them, which we used to do at time to time, but you can't generalize. But what's interesting is to discover the characters that you have in your team. So, you learn to deal with people in different ways.
But, Abhishek, let's move. I understand this with sport. I read something closer to you where I read an article that said the headline was, criticism still hurts.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Of course.
Yeah.
But isn't that good?
It is good, But I think the reason criticism hurts is because, my interpretation of it is it gets you to reflect, isn't it? And then you ask that question, is it true? Are they right in what they're saying? Now, I'm asking this because when we see Abhishek, we seem exuberant, we seem so confident. Do you have a lot of self-doubts?
Criticism for your film hurts because you already know it. And at that point in time, you're praying and hoping that please don't make this public. An actor, they're public figures, but when we fall, you fall publicly. And a lot of the time, the public enjoy that fall. I remember there was in the late 90s, my father was going through a very tough phase in his career. He had come out of retirement, he was working, he felt he wasn't abreast with the kind of films that were being made, so his films weren't doing well. We had the first ever corporate body in the film industry called ABCL, which was in severe loss and huge debts, and it was a very, very unpleasant time for all of us. And I remember at that point in time, there was a very respected magazine in India called Outlook, which put him on the front page and had a close-up photograph of him looking very haggard, and it said the title was The Fall of an Icon. And he used to keep that on his desk, and I used to ask him that, why are you keeping this negativity in your desk? He says, because every morning before I go to work, I read it, and I go out to prove Outlook wrong. And the day I will remove that magazine from my desk is the day Outlook puts me on the front page with something good to say.
That was one of the best lessons I learned, because you do the same thing.
Yeah.
And I've come into the office and I've seen those articles, and when I was going through hell, I remember you told me the same thing. You said you got to use this to spear yourself forward.
Yeah.
And I think it was truly life-changing for me.
You have to use your pain. Pain is essential in life. It makes you know that you're alive. Criticism is good. If it hurts, it's good because it shows that it matters. You shouldn't be arrogant. There should be a confidence. There should be a certain strength in your attitude to how you respond to it, which is, I'm going to prove you wrong. Yeah. No, I know I'm better than that, and I'm going to work towards that. And so, from the start of my career, whenever I got a bad review, I used to stick it up on my bathroom mirror. Then there came a point of time when I couldn't see myself in the mirror because it was fully covered. So just took out one of them so I could just see, one eye at a time. I actually used it systematically. What I did is I used to highlight all the points that the critiques used to write against me. And my thing was, in a year, your first film to your last film, the yellow highlights have to reduce. It was as simple as that. So here I have somebody telling me what I'm doing wrong. I shouldn't be arrogant enough to say, oh, they don't know what they're talking about. You have to give them the respect that they're your audience as well, which they are. And I genuinely believe that. And I've always given a lot of these film critics a lot of credit for making me whatever actor I am today, is because I've used their criticism and their observations to improve myself.
The Outlet article is still there.
It's still there. Mine is still there. My dad has managed to, to overcome that. I'm still a work in progress. So.
There's a lovely psychological study that shows that, people think that you need to trust someone to be vulnerable. But actually, vulnerability builds trust. As an actor, you're so open to criticism because the world really doesn't see your vulnerabilities. And if we can build commonalities through our vulnerabilities, then you don't really open yourself up to, people are more compassionate.
It's a lot more complicated for actors, Shayamal. What do we do as actors? You basically, you bare your soul on a daily basis to a camera. Yes. And that camera is the window to millions of people. So you're basically being as vulnerable, as naked as possible. The first few lessons you have in any drama school is how to shed inhibitions. Because you have to be completely uninhibited, and you have to be, for me, for example, to do, say, an emotional scene, you can't fake that, no matter how much makeup you use. So if I need to build myself up, so you'll see actors doing emotional scenes are more quiet, are more introspective, because they're delving into their bank of emotions. We tend to store away a lot of stuff, because you use that. It's called emotional memory and effective memory. And so there could be an unpleasant experience or a memory which upsets me, depresses me. You store that. And when you have to do an emotional scene, you actually think of that.
You
use that. And so at that point, you're very vulnerable. So at that point, that emotion is very raw. Yeah. So as actors, our profession is to be vulnerable. Yes, you're vulnerable in front of the camera. The minute it goes off, you start becoming another person. You start playing that other character, which is your public image, which is totally cannot be vulnerable. Because at that point in time, you don't want to show that to your public.